Hey YouTubers, welcome to my new studio, and today I can do a picture comparison against the Samsung S20 and how it holds up against the Canon EOS M50. Let's roll the intro. So the first picture that I want to show you is a picture of a bokeh shot where we see that this plant is in focus and the background is out of focus. This is taken with the live focus mode on the S20. On the other side, you see the M50. And I don't think I have to zoom in, but if you look here, you can see that the leaves, this one is floating in midair, and the branches are messed up by the software. Sometimes you can fix that if you go to the picture and then you can edit the heaviness of the bokeh, if you will. If you put the slider to the left side, you can see sometimes it will solve it. But in most of the cases where you don't have straight lines, so if you have, for instance, hair or leaves like this, the live focus mode is struggling. I don't know if because of the time of flight sensor that isn't in the S20, it is in the Plus version, in the Ultra version. I owned a P30 Pro which had the time of flight sensor, and even then I saw it was struggling sometimes with difficult pictures like this. And if you look at the M50, of course, there isn't any issue. You can create more or less the same picture if you don't use live focus, but for instance, if you use just touch to focus on the regular camera, or use the pro mode and use the manual focus with focus peaking, just in any case, whatever you want. If you want a video on it, let me know. I will do that. Glad to do that. But once you have that in focus, I can show you in the next picture. Then those errors aren't there, and still you have that bokeh effect. Maybe not that strong, but it's there. And why is the bokeh effect on the M50 larger, if you will, or more apparent, if you will? That's due to the sensor size, because it's a larger sensor, APS-C, versus a smaller 1.17 sensor of the S20, which in this case is already larger than the S10 or previous um, Galaxy phones. If you have the Ultra, because that's almost a 1-inch sensor, then probably the bokeh effect would be much stronger. I don't own one, so I cannot show you the example. And I have another picture here of a horse, but I focused on this area, as you can clearly see. And what you can see here, at this part here, it messed up, and also here it messed up. Whereas, of course, the M50, you don't see that. So, conclusion, yes, you can take more or less live focus, also known as bokeh photos, uh, but a lot of times you will see some errors if the picture is difficult. So the next shot is some kind of macro shot of a flower. If you okay, you can see that the color science is a bit different if you compare the Canon with the EOS M50. But in this case, I'm not interested in the capabilities taking a shot with the S20. I more want to focus on the capabilities of getting out details. Well, let's focus on the part that I focused on, and that was the center of this flower. And if we zoom in a bit, then you can clearly see some animals are occupying this flower, and surely you can see, if you compare both, less details. You see some sharpening going on with the S20. So overall, it's not a very bad picture. And how many people are going to pixel peep? But if you want to see details, then yes, the EOS M50 or details. Also, if you would go to the edge of the leaves, you'll see some kind of hairs going on, which are currently not there in this regular shot. But what you can do with the S20 is take a 64 megabit picture. The only downside is that autofocus is way worse if you compare it to the regular main camera, and also you have to get a bit further away to be able to get your subject into focus. But okay, let's zoom out and let's go to the other picture and look at the size and dimensions change. So way bigger size and way bigger dimensions. But if we would now zoom in this leaf, you can clearly see we have hairs back. Sure, if I would look at the structure here and I look at the structure of the S20, clearly the M50 much better, but it's not miles apart anymore. And if we now go to the part where we focused on, so the center, you could even say that maybe this animal is even more detailed compared to the M. So those hairs here, it can even argue 64 megabit picture of the S20 is richer in detail compared to the 20 megabyte picture of the EOS M50. Well, up to you to decide. In my case, I will just say it can get pretty close. So, zoom test. What I did is, for a point of reference, took a 1x picture just with the main camera, and as you can see here, we have a heron sitting. And let's move to the next picture. So we have this is the with 3x still digital zoom, and so I can compare it with the EOS M50 more or less with the same focal length. Well, let's zoom in a bit. If we look at this heron, what is going on, and match it. This one size-wise. You see some chromatic aberration going on, color fringing, as you can see around these edges. Probably you can maybe fix it in post. I didn't try it, but that's not going on with the EOS M50, as you can clearly see. Also, if you look at the sharpening going on with this grass, that's not so visible with the EOS 50. So all in all, not the greatest of zoom capabilities of the S20, and it will get more apparent if you zoom in a bit further. So if we now go to 10x zoom, and we would compare that to more or less 10x with the EOS M50, then clearly you can see if you zoom in, there's a huge difference. Now zoom in, yeah, even if you get all the details that you see here, and of course you don't even can pick out the eye. So as some people say, if you go beyond 30 or whatever, now if you go beyond 10, it's already nothing. But if you just a regular 3x, which is sadly enough digital because of the focal length that this lens, zoom lens, is shooting at, you get poor results. I would rather see that they put in a lens with a longer, a higher focal length, so you have some optical zooming going on. Sadly enough, it isn't there with the S20, so I have to do with this. And I would say, yeah, zooming, thumbs down. Next up, flash. Well, let me start by saying I don't use flash on either devices. I don't like the outcome. If I would compare just those two pictures, I would say that the S20 brighter picture, although the ISO level 400 compared to the 200 that you can see here is a bit higher. But if you look at the details here, there's not a lot of noise in this picture. So if you want to compare, okay, which have the flash with the most capability, maybe even the S20, but my advice: don't use it. Use night mode or use longer exposure on your regular camera to achieve almost the same thing. So, but here you have it. Here you can compare it what you want to do with it. So this is the wide angle shot. S20, you can see it has a wider view of field, 30 millimeters against the 18 millimeters that I own on the EOS M50. That's a different lens, of course, than the kit lens. This is a dirt spot, by the way, which I removed after I saw this picture in my home. But what's apparent? Color science. You see this green is more true to life compared to this more vibrant green. The shadows here, the details in the shadows is way richer compared to the regular shot taken with the EOS M50. And I say regular because you can shoot an HDR picture. Well, let's move to that one. And when you do that, then you can see that the shadows on the EOS M50 is even better than the details or in the shadows of the S20. Another thing is the green, still better. Here's the dirt spot, but also the sun is way better contained with this HDR. So HDR in this case is kicking the ass of the S20. Although the S20 has a wider field of view. But okay, if we now would move to the main lens, and let's go to this picture as well. So this is taken with the main lens. So you see some flares going on here. You see that the sun is, well, okay contained. If you compare it to the EOS M50, then it's even better contained. I would say the grass is not as vibrant as the wide angle, although maybe a bit oversaturated. Details, fine as I told you, if you compare it to the ESM50 and here's a bit of the dirt spec. But okay, but again, let's take a look at the HDR picture. Uh, then I would say, like the rays of the sun, we have some small flare going on. We got more details again in the bush here in front of me, more true to life green. So all in all, yes, you can create a decent picture with the S20 if you compare the wide, but it is if you compare it to an HDR picture, it's even better on the EOS M50. So finally, the night shots. On the left side, this was the main camera with the scene detection. So you got the moon, and this is the outcome. Not very usable. If you look at the ESM50, you see a bit more green here on the edge of this water. So next, and this is shot with the tripod. If you look at the night mode, then clearly you get a much brighter picture. And the only thing what I did with the EOS M50 is bump up the ISO from 125 to 640 to get more or less the same picture. So what you can see here is, okay, the sun is better retained with the S20 compared to the EOS M50. But if you look at the details, so let's zoom in this part, you can clearly see you have much more details if you here compared to this more blurry and noisy part of the picture. But overall, this is handheld, and this is with a tripod, and you have to use a tripod because otherwise you cannot hold up a 10-second shutter time. And the night time that the night mode that I use on the S20 was also around 10 seconds to create this picture. Uh, this picture was also handheld, and this was also via the tripod. So what is apparent here? Well, if you zoom in and you look at those poles, clearly you can see a lot of details, a little bit of gray, but okay, it's not that bad if you compare it to the S20 handhold. Then the pole is not that bad, but if you look at this, it's losing details. But keep in mind, this is handheld, and this is shot from a tripod with 10 seconds. And you can see that due to the aperture that is used on the S20, you get more in focus, whereas this is more a bokeh effect. If you now move to the other picture, and this is both shot from a tripod from more or less the same angle. Again, so this is a 10 seconds shot with a very low ISO, as you can see. Again, you will see a bokeh effect here, whereas this is in focus. But again, if you would zoom in, you look at the quality of this picture, then this pole, and especially if you look at what here, so this is nice and clean. It's a good usable image. Maybe in the background you see some noise, but with 800, it's a fair amount of noise. So all in all, I'm impressed what the S20 can do handheld with a night mode. Sure, there is some grain in it, but it can almost turn it into day, so that's impressive. Uh, of course, if you have a tripod with you, then the EOS M50 will beat the S20 every time of the night. But if you don't have a tripod, then you're better off using the S20 due to the faster lens and also the night mode that makes it possible for you to shoot those pictures, even handheld. So happy with that functionality within the S20. Well, this is for me. So this is wraps it up. So this is the first time in a long time that I did edit a video. So if I did make any errors or whatever, please leave it in the comment. Let me know. And if you want to have more videos about whatever stuff that you want to see, if it's tech, camera, mobile, let me know. If you want to know how to create videos about how to shoot with the S20 and the best way possible, let me know. I'm glad to make such videos. I have a bit more time nowadays. So cheers and catch you on the next one.